this story was just an absolute banger, no? We've got some good faction conflict cheese, the lessons of the land and the Shah. Oh, and how can you forget just chilling out and farming? All in all, Mob has had one hell of a redemption tour since its release 11 years ago. Starting out as one of the most hated expansions, which in hindsight is crazy to think about, to one of the most universally beloved, it's a testament to the quality of Mop's story, and just how right things can go. But there's another expansion that fighting old gods and deposing war chiefs got me thinking about. Battle for Azeroth. Y'all ever think it's weird how much similar ground these two expansions tread? Yet one is commonly seen as the peak of the game's story, while the other is commonly blamed for its downfall? Both have the same core premise. The factions are at each other's throats, there's new lands and new allies to conquer, and a bit of old god to spice it up. Today, let's dig deep into why I think Mob succeeded and Battle for Azeroth did alright, and how the World Soul Saga can learn from it. Because you see, I think it mainly falls down to a simple problem. The world in Warcraft has been forgotten. What do I mean by that? Well, there's just an energy to Mop's dialogue that is missing from modern stories. Characters still talked in their monologuing, somewhat stilted way, but for some reason it worked. When compared to newer stuff where it just feels kind of off, and I think it boils down to one word: politics. Wait, no, not those ones, Azeroth politics.
We're gonna build an Azerite wall, War Chief. It's gonna be fucking huge. We're gonna make those dumb Alliance pay for it.
There's a common belief you'll hear around that people miss when major lore characters felt like big deals and they were above us in some way. Nowadays, we hang out with them so much that it feels like they're yapping at us, calling us champion or Mawwalker. But in all honesty, I don't think it's because we spend too much
3 for 3 for the Trump voice coming out while watching my videos. Nice.
It's because they brought themselves down to our level, or hell, that we're even better than them in some ways. In the past, characters spoke with a sort of grandeur you'd expect of world leaders. You could always sense they were speaking on behalf of their people. Monologuing works really well when every line of dialogue is part of some politically charged message or grand mission. Let's look at a Mop cutscene.
True. When you start looking at it on the micro level, at an individual character level, and you start to realize that the hero characters are not infallible, it can definitely start to change the perception.
Real quick. My personal favorite, and what I believe to be the best example of this.
I'm no longer part of my horde! The world will hear of this. They will come for you. Yes, I'm counting on it.
You catch that? My man's just got stabbed, and the first utterance out of his mouth is, what was that again? The world will hear of this? Like, come on, man, you've got bigger things to worry about, like all sorts of external and internal bleeding. Though he ends up being fine. Bandages do wonders. But yeah, Taryn Zoo getting stabbed wasn't just a moment.
He also got corrupted by the Shaw of Pride. And his eyes are glowing blue throughout the entire raid. It's pretty cool.
Between these two characters, at this point they barely know each other. No, the biggest impact of this moment wasn't to Taryn Zoo's vital organs, but the political implications of the Horde's war chief stabbing the leader of the Shadowpan. Every moment in the dialogue between these characters can be read like this, especially when Garrosh reveals that the entire reason he did this was to provoke the world leaders. Even though we have an intimate view of both of these characters, and we've spent plenty of time with them both, they still have this grandiose aura to them. They just exude power. Garrosh and Taryn Zoo aren't just badass warriors, they're symbols of greater ideas, the figureheads of ancient cultures. This is what I'm getting at. Mop's story is so fulfilling because you can feel presence in every cutscene, every line of dialogue, or even the quests. The shadow of Azeroth is casted upon everything. History is written when they speak. Compare this to Battle for Azeroth, which still has a war chief to dethrone, and even more brazen attacks that escalate the conflict. On paper, the events of the expansion do enough similar things that should establish this same sense of scale. However, the actual words spoken by our character moves the camera closer. BFA is part of a greater shift in WoW storytelling. We see the more intimate thoughts and feelings of our characters, their struggles and triumphs. which was usually reserved for the books.
True.
I believe this shift in perspective, which can work for a story, has led to an awkward teen phase where the greater mechanisms of the story, questing, cutscenes, raids, doesn't mesh with the actual story being told. For a comparison, let's look at a BFA cutscene that could be seen as a direct corollary to the Mop one, Sourfang's mock Garage.
A traitor leading traitor.
Shaw of Hate, Pyro for Terran Zoo? No, it's in the raid. He gets corrupted by the Shaw of Pride. It's in Siege of Orgrimmar.
Why should I accept your challenge?
You want to make me suffer.
You sense that,
It's also
don't you?
Shaw of Violence,
That
not
just
Shaw of Hate.
completely different vibe. Compared to Terran Zoo and Garrosh, this interaction between Sourfang and Sylvanas is deeply personal. This cutscene is more about the culmination of Sourfang's story than it is a coup against the War Chief.
True.
Tangentially,
But it
following
is also to get everyone to realize that Sylvanas doesn't give a fuck about them. It worked pretty well.
we get Sylvanas' infamous mustache twirling
Shaw of Hate is the world one? No, that's Shaw of Anger.
speech that sets her up for the Shadowlands. The reason this speech feels so off is because there's no message. It's essentially a nothing burger, no greater political aims. It's solely setting her up to be a raid boss. That's the sort of dissonance I'm trying to get at. This vestige of how stories in Warcraft used to be told, being put somewhere it doesn't fit. But let's step back from the major characters. Let's zoom in on the smaller pawns of the factions. Your generic quest givers. In Mop, you join up with your faction and make a bombastic landfall in the Jade Forest. You do what you do. That is, doing heinous things to the guys wearing the other color of t-shirt. Until Terran Zoo shows up and slaps you on the wrist. For an example, we're going to look at the Alliance version of the scene, and with our newfound perspective, let's pay attention to how things are said.
Oh, nice. It's Pride. Look at the... Yo, they dropped the blue Shaws right out of the Kaldori immediately, dude. Holy shit. I don't know if it does that on the Horde side, bro. You immediately see Shaw of Pride. That's
These are
crazy.
sad.
Men,
It's wild.
stand down. This is one of the natives.
Morel Nightwell. Huh.
We are from the Alliance.
What was the one that
and
we
mean you
amalgamated?
no
Was it...
harm. Tell me, what was that shadow you drew out of me?
This is not the place to explain. In short, your own doubts have been made manifest as a consequence of your actions.
Your own doubts. I love it, dude. They try to paint it so hard that it's like a corruption of the land, and in a way, it is. The land is also alive and probably animating the negative emotions within these people. It's like, it all comes from within you, and people see it as like the Shaw are corrupting you with doubt. No, they're not. They're not corrupting you with doubt and pride or any of those things. They're just bringing it to life. The stuff that's already there inside of you.
You don't understand. We're fighting a war here.
Oh, I understand perfectly. I have eyes. But Pandaria is not like whatever land you came from.
It lives and breathes. Pandaria's not like whatever land you came from. It lives and breathes. You should be careful what kind of energy you bring here. Now put those weapons away.
You should be careful what kind of energy you bring here. Now put those weapons away.
There's two things I want to point out from the scene. First off, does anyone else sense a weird vibe from how Rel says, one of the natives? With just a quick phrase, we immediately establish that the Alliance views the Pandaren and the other inhabitants of the land as an other. Second, the way he retorts to Terran Zoo that we're fighting a war here shows that at first, he just assumed that Pandaren didn't understand the quote-unquote complex relationship that is beating each other senseless. Building off of that, the story of the Jade Forest continues with this story thread. Upon making landfall, the Alliance and Horde settle down and approach the newfound culture with respect. Nope. They play off pre-existing cultural conflicts and recruit Pandaren natives into their proxy war.
Yep.
While the player character is off meditating with Lord Wakarcho, the factions are doing some shady stuff. Bringing their war to these shores causes immense destruction, culminating in the corruption of the Jade Temple. The story of the Jade Forest is a perfect example of how Azerothian politics can provide interesting facets to the story. With just a line or two of dialogue, a simple questioning shows us how the Alliance and Horde
I need to get
force
back into
themselves
playing
upon the
Remix.
land and leave the player with a sense of guilt to dwell on, opening you up for the greater message that Mop is trying to convey. But back to BFA.
I want to hear
Forest
that
is a
again. His
perfect
point here is really
example
good.
of how Azerothian politics provide interesting facets to the story. With just a line or two of dialogue, a simple questioning shows us how the Alliance and Horde force themselves upon the land and leave the player with a sense of guilt to dwell on, opening you up for the greater message that Mop is trying to convey.
Makes you feel bad for fucking their
back
home
to
up.
BFA. We have a similar situation. There's a war to fight, and we need to recruit some fresh meat. To stick with the blue side of ordeals, we're going to look at the Kultiris story. In comparison to making landfall and starting proxy wars in Pandaria, we accompany Jaina on a diplomatic mission to recruit Kultiris back into the Alliance. As a setup, there's no way for this to not be personal. And while I believe that this individual story actually kicks ass,
It's really
the
good.
ramifications of such a
I would say it's one of the best ever done in World of Warcraft. And Laura Bailey is one of the best VAs in this entire fucking games franchise as well. So, I mean, I think Jaina's story is probably as S tier as I mean, it's pretty fucking up there, dude.
personal matter, being the setup for Kultiris joining the Alliance, leaves things a bit dry down the road. Mom and
Oh,
daughter
the ink
make up,
spilling is
and now
definitely
the Alliance has a
symbolism, of
navy
course.
to attack Xanalor with.
Sure.
There's just not much going on beyond that. To put a bow on this, Battle for Azeroth got stuck
Nice shot here at dusk. And the colors of twilight come out. Dude, I can't wait. Oh my god, I can't wait until we see them both. Oh, I can't wait until the sun and moon take to the fucking sky at the same time and we finally get the twilight, dude. The colors of orange and red and pink and purple. They do this so often. And I can't wait for you guys to see the Anshe video. I'm pretty stoked for it.
Battle for Azeroth got stuck in the middle of an evolution of Warcraft. The intimate storytelling of the books, with its interpersonal dramas and complex motivations, bled its way into the main game. While emotionally charged character dramas are equally good at telling stories, the mechanisms by which Blizzard tells their tales didn't adjust alongside it. We still take part in massive battles, siege capital cities, and deal with interfaction divides. But with the intimacy of the story, those events don't have the proper setup to feel like the political actions that they are. I've seen the word Marvelification thrown around.
Yeah, I can see this. It starts to feel more like an individual character soap opera rather than really hitting on the grand scheme of the faction movement with it. Like, it becomes more zoomed in on the faction leaders and their individual struggles and stuff rather than how that also interplays with the factions themselves. And look, they did it. They it's in there. Like, the books do it, the side stories do it. Like, it's there. It's just different. It's definitely not as like on the nose and generalized. And I don't think that's a bad thing for it to have been that way, as it may have been, say, in like Miss of Pandaria. And so I definitely, I can feel, I think, what is being referred to here, where it becomes like, yes, these characters have always been here, but it's mostly been about the ways of the world, the factions movement, rather than the individuals, whereas it's become more about the individuals, which I think is also good for its own reasons, but might feel a little weird compared to how it was before.
The idea that WoW storytelling shifted to be more like MCU movies, while I don't exactly agree with that assessment, it certainly puts a word to the problem. Because when we have such a close relationship with our characters, like we do Spider-Man or Captain America, and they perform these world-changing events or stage coups, it feels more like action figures slapping against each other rather than some sort of 10-season HBO.
There's so many cutscenes from BFA that I just don't
So,
remember.
what about
BFA
War
and
Within?
or Shadowlands.
Well, I get the vibe that Blizzard is continuing down the road of telling these character-driven stories. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Let's look at the core setup of the expansion, just by looking at the box art.
But what they're doing now, which I think is nice, is they're doing these individual stories and they're also telling like cosmic storylines at the same time. They're implying things about the cosmic forces, about their goals and interests, about how mortals perceive them and how that can affect the relationships between mortals, even if they're familial, right? how can the connection with light and void and the grand scheme and what that means for the blood elves and the void elves and for humanity and then down in the lower level with Eretor and Illyria and Turalian as well. Like what it's like a nice as above, so below. And there needs to be a nice balance between those two things in order to really keep the scope where you want it to be. Otherwise, the scope becomes too zoomed in, and then it feels like an entire expansion is about a specific character, kind of like Shadowlands feeling like it was about Sylvanas, or that she was basically the main character, and we kind of lost the big scheme plot of like, what is with the Realm of Death? What has really happened here? What is the threat that we're facing? What does this imply about the nature of the cosmos as a whole? And it became much more focused on Sylvanas getting her soul back in the betrayal of the jailer, is what it kind of felt like to me. So yeah.
3 characters, a guy with daddy issues, a guy that gives daddy issues, and a one-woman Hot Topic fashion show. All of them just go deep into some caves and fight some spiders. At its core, this setup is a prompt to explore the war within our characters. Because you see, BFA wasn't the first expansion with this more character-driven writing. I'd argue Legion was, and Legion worked. It had us all at the edge of our seat, and the reason Legion worked while BFA didn't comes down to the setup. One is a complex geopolitical war, and the other is an existential threat from space demons. The narrative doesn't demand complex motivations from the Legion. They're a bunch of demons that want to destroy everything. Not much to write home about. However, the depth of the Legion expansion comes from our heroes as they face this shallow threat. The Legion provides a problem for our heroes to work off of, to interrogate pre-existing issues in order to band together against it. That's why Legion work. And from our initial looks of the war within, it very much falls under this style of threat. Heck, even our glimpses at the pre-patch mirror Legion quite closely, though I won't dig into that for spoiler reasons. This is the story Blizzard wants to tell. They've put in the work to learn the hard lessons of telling personal stories. Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands are those scars.
God, I'm so excited.
Along with every other aspect of this game, Blizzard is taking these punches and using them to build something better. So I hope you walk away from this video pumped for the future of Warcraft. We can take a moment to talk about why we didn't like the past and turn those lessons into something productive.
Not yet,
that gets
Matt.
us excited for the future. I'm pretty sure if we stop to slow down in Pandaria and learn the lessons of the land, we might hear them saying the same thing.
Slow
Thank you all for watching
down.
the video. I'm excited for the future of Warcraft. And I hope you
This is
are
a great
too.
video.
Let me know in the comments what you think made old stories work and how Blizzard could learn a lesson or two.
Yeah,
from
show
it.
some love, chat. I linked it there in
As
chat
always,
for you
it's
guys.
time to
I'll
thank
link it
my
again.
Patreons. Thank you to
Good video.
Dakota, showing us the power of subtle hues, and Rhea, who, to be honest, should have been in the last video, and I made an oopsie. So if the real ones could head into the comments and give them an extra round of thank you, I'd really appreciate that. But as always, thank you to all of our reoccurring Patreons who've stuck with us. Without you guys, these videos would not be possible. Thank you. Anyways,
Nice.
this has been 6. I'll see you guys next time.
Good video. Good video. As usual.